Hey, Eastern Oregon, welcome to this August 1st version of AM Live on EOA, your connection to Eastern Oregon. And we're also on Roku. So glad to have you with us. How are you, man?
Morning. It's
we survived.
Second Monday. Yeah. Well, busiest week of the year is over.
Yeah.
We're on to not greener pastures, but
it's just back to somewhat normal. Yeah.
Well, it's not going to be normal for a week or two, but
yeah. And if you tried to tune in last week, we didn't broadcast last week just because of everything that was going on with the East-West Shrine game that we do in Baker City. So, and it was a 6X. So that's good.
It was a success.
Yeah.
It ended up being. It's so for people that don't understand this, the East-West Shrine game is our biggest production of the year, and it's extremely stressful on us too. BC handles like the technical side and all the equipment and the moving parts, and then I kind of handled the production side, like the videos and the player intros, and it's extremely stressful week, but the culmination of it is waking up on Sunday morning and knowing that we presented a good product.
Yeah. Well, and the two parts of the production side of it. One is the actual game itself, which we have a 16-foot trailer that we take over and set folding tables up and set equipment on. And thankfully it is air conditioned because it was about 100 degrees in the middle of the afternoon. And so that's that part of it. But the other part of it is the entire week up to that, you and Benny are filming and preparing all of the videos that we play during the game. So
yeah,
it's
I think
a huge amount. Yeah.
That week I didn't have one warm meal that week. No. Every time Benny and I tried to figure out a way to eat, something came up. So it's for real.
Yeah.
It was but that's just part of it.
But you found some time to eat though.
Oh yeah. Shrine game night at about midnight when I got back to the hotel. I had my burger on the front seat of the car and it was in plastic, and it was in one of those styrofoam containers. I didn't have a plate.
Yeah.
So I just ate it cold. I was starving. I was just like, I'm not even.
No, I had that. Yeah. Right at the very beginning of the game, at the beginning of the stream, we had some tech issues and I mean, finally in the middle, and there was a burger sitting there for me. And I finally ended up, taking the burger, the burger and the top half of the bun to hold the stuff on it. And that's how I ate it somewhere during the game. It was a crazy day. So
Nick Moss says we did a great job, and so does Bud, my armchair quarterback. What's up, Bud? How was your party, Bud? I saw that Bud had a party out at his house to kind of celebrate him on the mend, and but it was Friday night. There's no way I could have went. I would have went out there and seen old Bud. He's a good dude.
Well, we've never met yet, so be sure.
Oh, you haven't met him?
No, not face to face. No.
He's at a lot of sporting events.
I know. Normally, when I'm in a sporting event, though, it's like I'm kind of in a zone. Yeah. So, but a really big shout out to our crew for the game. We had 12 people that had 4 camera guys, 3 that were in the stand, and then Benny was on a rover, and 7 cameras in all for the production. Just a huge thing. And then the people that were in the trailer, really good crew.
Yeah, and we had a few people doing jobs that they'd never done before too.
Yeah.
And we made it work.
Yep. So, well, hey, you want to talk about sports?
Yeah, let's do it.
All right.
It's moratorium week in Oregon's over, so I mean people can start practicing high school wise. EOU starts practice for all of their fall sports this week. I'm excited about obviously volleyball. Last year they spent, I want to say, 9 weeks as number 1 in the nation, which is the first time ever a CCC team's been number 1 in the nation. I think they finished in number 4 overall. They ended up having to play Corbin in the national tournament, which we had beat them twice during the regular season over there and over here in the CCC championship. but then we lost to them in the national tournament in the semis. So EOU volleyball is super exciting. There's a Montana State transfer that's coming in to fill the shoes of first team All-American Cambry Shields, who graduated and is done. She's quite possibly the best EOU volleyball player ever. Football wise, we got a GNAC player of the year quarterback transferred in from Central Washington. Coach Camp, I talked to him last week during the week. He hooked me up with a pair of cleats for one of the Shrine players whose cleat blew out. He's super excited about that position. We had that conversation where, they started 5 different players at quarterback last year and had 6 play quarterback in total. And Camp really felt like none of them stepped up. And so now you bring in some new blood, and we'll see what happens at that position, because that position is super important.
Yeah.
Their question mark, as always, is the offensive line, though, and we'll have to see. I mean, in the spring game, it felt like the defensive line was better than the offensive line, in my eyes. But that's history. I mean, that's normal. We always have a really good defensive line at EOU. A lot of defensive returners on offense. Aiden Patterson and Anthony Peterson are both back at running back, and they'll get probably 90% of the carries between the two of them. And my prediction for EOU this year, and I think this is fair, in the coaches poll, they were the coaches poll came out last week, and they were second to last, which is a fair. I mean, that's where we finished last year. I'm going to say we're going to go 500 this year, though, and I don't think that's an unachievable goal for this team. 500 would be a good year.
Yeah,
coming off of a pretty rough season last year. EOU men's and women's soccer, you got both of them made the playoffs last year, the conference tournament. I think they both just get better. The women's team has a new coach in Josh Goodman. He played at EOU. He's been an assistant coach for the last 3 years. His dad is the athletic director at the high school. And so they moved here, and when Josh came to go to college, and I think he's going to do a great job replacing Plucker, who was one of the best coaches in EOU women's soccer history. This team makes the national tournament regularly, and they're always good. So he's got big shoes to fill, but I think he's going to do a great job. High school wise, I got to get out there and see him. I'm a little bit nervous about football. I'm not going to lie. New coach, Dalton Sheets takes over the reins from Rich McEnroe, and we're just going to have to see. I mean, I think there's a lot of things up in the air. I think you'll see Carter Peasley start at quarterback, which is, I mean, it's quite – I haven't got to see him play. He's hurt a lot. He was hurt a lot last year, so everything's a big question mark for high school football this year. But I think we're going to compete. I don't think we're going to have the team we had last year by any means, but we will compete.
Yeah.
It's exciting. I mean, it's the time of year where I get excited about sports. Like I posted on my Instagram yesterday, hey, can't wait for fall, with a bunch of fall sports pictures. Speaking of the Shrine game, I had Brenna Strand come out, and she's B. Rayland Photography. She took pictures for us last year, and she did it again this year because obviously we don't have anybody that can be down there taking pictures, and she did a great job. I'll share some of those with you guys. That's such a sweet picture. That's the starting quarterback for the East right there. We'll just roll through these real quick. There's Meyer Whitmore, who's the LeGrand kid who's going to be going to Central Washington University to play football. That was a sweet picture right there, too. She just did a phenomenal job with these. The East ended up winning 14-6. Look at that. That's phenomenal. Yeah. And there's some blur, but that's what makes the picture kind of cool in my eyes. That was Shaw Stork. He was probably our MVP. Both William and I decided. And then here's our two LeGrand boys, and I just ran through a little edit. And last time they get to play together. These guys have played together since they were kids. It's really cool that they got to go out with a win. And Jarrett's going to play football up here at EOU Armstrong. Yeah. And Meyer's going to go play at Central Washington. And They both did really well. They're linemen. So you don't. That's not the position where your name gets called a lot, right? You know, but they both played really well, and they represented LeGrand to the fullest. Yeah. It was
So,
great.
but question back to offensive line. Why is, like at college level, why is the offensive, or why is Eastern, why do they have troubles recruiting offensive linemen versus defensive linemen?
Good question.
Yeah.
Good question. I really don't know. And I won't say like I think the last few years we've just struggled finding I don't really know that answer because camp is the coach is the offensive line.
Right.
And so I don't know.
Are offensive linemen in more demand?
Yeah. It's
so
hard
if you're
to find.
So if you're a big offensive lineman
and you're really good, you're going D1.
Yeah. Got it.
Yeah, like if you're, say, offensive line is one of those positions where if you find a dude that's big and strong, you can mold him. You can't make everybody a quarterback.
Right.
But if you find somebody that hasn't played a lot of football that's like 6'5", 300 and strong, you can teach them the footwork fairly fast. You can't teach them the mind of a quarterback. You know what I mean?
Right.
And then the position that's different on offensive line where you kind of need a quarterback mind is the center, because the center's in charge of the offensive line, needs to know all the play, you know, like he kind of helps out the other guys, like when they forget the play, or, you know, like the center's kind of
he's kind of the mom of the offensive line.
But the most important position in the offensive line is the left tackle.
Right.
Because that protects the quarterback.
Yeah, that's right. I mean,
they're the highest paid. They're
that movie Blindside. Did a really good job of it.
He was a left tackle.
Yeah.
So they're just hard to find in offensive line. There's not a lot of glory in it either. So it's like kids when they're young, nobody says I want to be a left tackle.
No, I mean when I played football, it's like offensive line.
I want the ball. Right?
I mean the defensive line. That's where the fun was.
That's what I played.
Yeah.
I didn't even play offense.
Yeah.
I just played defense, and that's because there's no glory in but some guys can find some glory there. And in the last probably like 20 years, the offensive line in the NFL, offensive linemen have become a little more glorified. They're getting paid more. But like I said, especially at this level, there's not a lot of glory there. Yeah.
All righty. Good stuff.
I'm excited about sports, though.
Yeah.
I'm ready for fall.
I know. The other question I was going to ask. So Carter, that's Beasley, Andrew's
little brother.
And is Andrew playing again this year?
Andrew is playing again this year. Andrew will be the starting quarterback for Wyoming.
Okay.
And they come to Boise State in October, and I think I'm going to go to that.
Oh, really?
Yeah. I think I'm going to go to that game.
In October, you should take me with you. Let's go together. Yeah.
Let's go.
Do we know anybody who can hook us up with
press tickets? Of course. No, we're not going to have tickets. We're going to be on the field.
No, I'd love to go with you.
We got press passes to the Wyoming game to be on the field.
I'd love to go with you. That would be a kick. Yeah.
Johnny will be there too, covering Boise State.
Yeah.
So we'll go. Let's do it.
Good.
Bud Forrest says, "Come to the fair. I'll be out there."
Yeah. And the fair is that this weekend? I'm sorry,
I have no idea.
I think it is. Yeah, Bud, inform us. I think it is. It's because it normally is the first weekend. Anyhow, well, hey, let's
get some weather.
Yeah, let's get on here.
You talk about the weather. I'm going to mute my phone.
Looking outdoors, it's pretty out there. Let me find my weather graphic. So, here we go. Going to be 94 today, and then it looks like it's getting a little cooler throughout the week.
It's still going to be hot.
Yeah, it is. Man, 92, 94. 88. So it's going to be warm throughout the week. The rest of the week, just is what it is. So
nice and clear outside. Beautiful, beautiful day.
Yep.
Bud says the fair starts tomorrow.
Okay, thank you. And that makes sense.
So, the fair's lost some of its gumption, not having a carnival.
Did they? And I didn't know. Did they get a carnival back? No.
There's no carnival. They said the reason why there's no carnival is because a couple of them went out of business, like complete. And then the price to get the carnival here is just too high.
Well, and there's a rotation. It seems like COVID disrupted some of that.
Probably.
Yeah.
COVID disrupted everything.
Because, the carnival people, I mean, they go from one place to, and that schedule they do that same schedule over and over again. And so, yeah. So
I always thought that would be a cool job. A carny.
A carny?
Yeah. You get to travel all over.
Well, I know, but those people are like,
yeah.
Well, I mean, they typically have a very crusty reputation.
Yeah.
It's funny, the voices of carnies, though. I mean, you have this.
Yeah, because they all
this
smoke
penetrating.
cigarettes.
Yeah, come check this out.
Yeah.
Free rings for
it
a buck.
would be free travel, though.
It certainly would be interesting, but boy, it seemed like the summer of that you'd be done.
I would do it for one summer.
Yeah.
Like it's kind of like working out at Tagaris when I was a kid, the potato farm. One harvest of that, you're good.
Yeah.
It's 14 hours standing in front of a conveyor belt picking rotten potatoes and rocks.
Just it takes one summer.
Just the smell alone.
Yeah.
You can't get it off of you. Rotten potatoes is the worst smell. I mean, it's so bad.
Well, and and actually it's poisonous too. I mean,
know that.
I mean,
maybe that's why they put us.
There are people. I mean, there are cases where people go down into an old potato cellar and die. I mean, it's interesting. All right. Well, hey, Chief Gary Bell from LeGrand Police Department is going to be with us here in a minute, and just right after this. All right, we're back with Chief Gary Bell from LeGrand Police Department. How are you, man?
Very good, thank you.
Good.
Yeah.
And you were fishing yesterday.
Yeah, my wife and I went fishing.
That's awesome.
Yeah, had a great time.
Yeah, I mean, I was trying to text you just to confirm that you were on, which, I mean, even though I couldn't get a hold of you, I mean, it's like, it's Gary. There's like, he's going to be here. He's going to show up. Yeah. So, but
I'm a little dependable, but
right.
It's interesting because where I was, I had no cell service.
Yeah.
And that's pretty rare. I mean, I don't often get opportunities to be just disconnected.
Right.
And I'm not used to it. And so when I saw your message, but I couldn't get a message back to you.
Yeah.
And so it weighs on me.
Yeah.
But after, I think I could get used to it though.
Well, are you the person that stresses out when you're disconnected, or do you just kind of let it?
No, I don't. I mean, I stressed out about 15 years ago, and I'm still functioning, right? So I don't really it doesn't get me that way. It's just that I always have to stay on top of things because, I get hundreds of emails every day. And so I'll be, in the evening and maybe early in the morning with coffee, running through emails, and my wife will be, she used to say, Gary, you're not working, are you? In my recliner. And I'd be like, no, but but now she knows. The reason I do that though is because then when I go to work, it's like I don't have all this waiting for me, and so I'm ready to tackle more important stuff.
And if you a couple of days of not responding to emails, and it compounds into 700.
That exactly. So you take a few days off, and if I do nothing, then when I go back to work, it's like being punished. So it's just managing the tasks.
And when I did hear from you, and you said, I was offline for a bit. It's like, good for you. Yeah. I mean, I didn't have a chance to tell you that, but that's awesome because for me anyhow, I never volunteered to be disconnected. It has to be taken from me in some manner or not,
You know, Carly Greeno is my administrative assistant, and it's pretty regular that, you know, the time off accruals that I earn through work, it's not uncommon that I lose time off on a monthly basis. And she has been on me. It's like, Gary, you need to take time off. And so I'm a slow learner, but she's finally got through to me, I think. And it's important, you know, to be able to provide the community and my staff the best that I can. I need to take care of myself too.
100%.
Good.
Yeah.
So you have a new officer. I mean, right?
Well,
you're accumulating.
You have a new officer. We have a bunch of new officers, honestly.
Yeah.
But
tell us what's going on.
Yeah. So Cole Ginnert, he's an incredible young man. He has roots here in Union County, but he and his family not too long ago moved to us here locally from Colorado. They'd also been in Texas for a short period of time, but we had a vacancy, and it's a pretty interesting story if you guys want to hear it. So so Officer Ginnert's brother, Cody, had the coffee shop here on Adams Avenue, Brother Bear, for a period of time. And during that time is when I got to know Cody. And sometime later, he reached out to me and said, hey, my brother is going to be in town. They're moving back to LeGrand. And I'm wondering if maybe we could get together, because he's interested in maybe getting into law enforcement. And so his brother Cody and his brother Cole and Lieutenant Hayes and I met over a cup of coffee. And you know, these are the things that we do in order to just reach out and make ourselves available to people if they have an interest, because you never know, right? And so we visited, shared information with him about the department, and answered questions that he had about potential openings that were coming up and what the process looked like. And at that point, super nice. I mean, you guys know Cody, so you know, he's much like his brother, just really good people. But we had no idea, right? It was some months down the road. And I see an application that comes across my desk, and there he is, Cole Ginnert. And but he was in, you know, a pool of candidates with others, and you know, we have a pretty hard and fast and fixed process, but you just got to wait and see, you know, let the process work. And as it shook out, he rose to the top, and we swore him in here not too long ago, and he is now a LeGrand police officer, and we couldn't be happier. He's a wonderful guy.
So is he already done with the training?
Oh no, I'm sure he would like to be, and I would like him to be. He has an academy date in November.
So you get sworn in before you go.
Yep. Gotcha. So he currently is in what we call FTEP, Field Training and Evaluation Program. So it's basically on the job training.
Yeah.
But he has what we call an FTO, Field Training Officer. And so sometimes you see two officers riding around together. It's not uncommon when you see that one of those officers is in training. Yeah. And so that training, so FTEP locally for a new police officer, it's, you know, at least 4 months of on-the-job training. And then the basic police academy, which is in Salem for all sworn police officers in the state of Oregon, that's 16 weeks. So, so training, by time we hire a new police officer that doesn't have prior experience, if they're, you know, doesn't come from another agency, you're looking at realistically probably 9 to 10 months of training time before they can be solo out taking calls for service by themselves.
Which is probably why it's so important to find somebody that's gonna, you know, that fits that.
Oh yes,
because otherwise you don't want them to go through all that and spend all that money and time and then not.
Right.
You know.
Yeah. Aside from, I know we've talked about it before, but aside from finding the right person that, you know, has the character traits that that we're looking for, and the foundational values, the things, they got to come to us with things that we can't teach. They have to have those innate values. We can teach them a lot of things. We can teach them about police work, but how to be a good human being, they need to bring that to the table. But that's exactly right. You know, we're making, and it's not just LeGrand PD. It's every law enforcement agency in the state. But when we hire somebody, it's a big investment,
Right.
not only time, but resources. And so you want to make good choices.
Right.
Yep.
Well, awesome. Well, good. Because, Mary Ann always asks that question at the council at the meetings.
Two down. Yeah. It's a kind of a standing joke, but with Chief Harvey before I. But here's the deal. We have 34 employees at the police department. And, it's sometimes, we know what my profession is, but sometimes I'm in the people business, both in serving people and also internally, and, we 34 different people, and we all have, different personalities and different, places in our lives. And, you talk about investment, and I'll share, this is a little bit of one of those bittersweet things, but a very long time LeGrand police officer, Jared Rogers. I know you guys probably both know Jared. He's a phenomenal person, and he's been a fantastic police officer. He actually is a sergeant, so a supervisor at our office now. He has announced his retirement. So thinking about, when, we just hired Officer Ginnert, well, Jared has provided 25 years of service to both the department and to our community. And so I suggest to you that it saddens me, when we, are going to lose people like Jared, but then at the same time, it's like couldn't be more deserving of retirement. And what more can we ask of somebody, to provide that type of service to others for 25 years.
A third of your life, essentially.
Yeah.
Wow.
So it's a good deal, but who knows what Officer Ginnert, somebody might be talking about, his long service
His
one day. You just never know.
25 years. Probably won't be us.
But I think it behooves us all to always remember that it's like we all started somewhere.
Right.
And some of my fondest memories to this very day, even in my current role is, early in my career, just in service to other people.
Yeah. Well, cool. Well, let's switch a little bit.
Sure.
So you guys had a big incident up at the hospital a month ago or so.
Right.
But for those people that don't know, why don't you first talk about what happened there, and then just the response that took from search and rescue. Just that was a big response for that.
Yeah. So I really would classify that as a critical incident type of call. And, some in the community may wonder why we don't talk more about these types of calls for service. But, suicide or the threat of suicide is a very, it's a heavy topic.
Right.
And, I personally believe that it's nothing that should be hidden because it's real, and as human beings, we all, have people in our lives or families that, we struggle from time to time, and I think before I talk to you about, the response, I'd really like to focus on that if we could. I think it's just important to say that, if you're not feeling okay, it's okay. Just reach out, because there's people that are not only willing, but interested in doing what we can to help. So anyway, challenging call for service. Emmett Cornford, our fire chief, and I have an incredible relationship. And, he and I were working together that day in the command post. And between the two of us, we have right about 70 years of service to our local community. And that call for service and the circumstances that we were faced with that morning, they rival the most challenging calls that either or both of us have seen in our careers. So very, very difficult. So early in the morning, we had an individual that had climbed on top of the construction crane that is at the Boughton construction site up at GRH, and was threatening harm to himself. And our police officers responded initially, and we had a command post set up, had a professional counselor and one of our crisis negotiators that were in communication with the individual and just doing an absolutely incredible job. This went on for about 6 hours, and part of the challenge for us was there weren't a whole lot of options. But so what we did, working, and this is what we do around here, and it's talked about sometimes, I think you guys know it, but we have incredible relationships between, professional organizations, and all of that equates to, we train together, we have relationships, we know each other, and all of that equates to, in times of crisis such as this,
Right.
we're able to really fluidly and efficiently work in a way that oftentimes leads to positive outcomes, and this is no exception. So in the command post, we had a number of our professional partners that were there, and we were all looking at what our options were in order to reach a positive and a safe resolution, not only for this individual but for our entire community, because the visibility of this was something that was traumatizing to not only the first responders and the individual, his family, but I would offer thousands of people in our community.
Yeah.
And that was on our mind
Right.
at that moment in time. So as we do in these circumstances, we have contingency plans, if this, then this, and if this,
Right.
then this. And the outcome after about 6 hours of really intense and what we thought was meaningful communication in a positive way, the outcome was not what we were seeking. But I will offer that because of the planning and all of the mechanisms that had been staged and put in place, we were able to rescue this individual and get to him quick enough that he was in the emergency department at GRH within just a few minutes, which is, I'm not, medical is not my world, but I do know that the faster you get to advanced life care, the higher degree of likelihood that you will survive.
Absolutely.
And so I really credit the quality and expedient work of those folks, and we're talking about first responders, and there was some search and rescue personnel there that were helping us, but our partners at Center for Human Development, Grand Run Hospital, even Valley Construction.
Yeah.
I mean, incredible people. I mean, this is not things that they normally deal with.
Right.
But it just really exposed the professional level of that organization. And ultimately, it led to this individual's life being saved. And, so a positive outcome. It's very emotional, because on the one hand you want to celebrate that, but it's we at least in our community, the first responder community, we just hope that maybe something that we did will provide an opportunity for this individual to get the help that they need, and recognize that, in as much as sometimes life really kicks us in the teeth, their life is worth living. And there's some good things for all of us. But we all have difficult days, so just let others in, because there's folks out there that can help. So,
well, thanks for sharing about that, and
certainly,
and the perspective of you guys, because that's something we don't get a peek inside of, know. And I know all of you guys individually, and I know how that is when you finally get a chance to mix with people that friends in a professional manner. Things just click that wouldn't click normally. And you're able to say, well, you're able to predict each other's movements because you've been around each other so long.
There's comfort in that. I mean, if you guys are looking for an insight, I can tell you that, these situations are stressful.
Oh my.
And we train, and I've served the community for right at 30 years, not in as your chief of police, but building up to this. And so I've got a lot of experiences, and but still, I mean, I'm telling you, when you have critical incidents, I mean, they're as stressful as they seem like they would be, right? But we train for it. And when you're surrounded by people that you have worked with, you have grown to be dependent upon, they're trustworthy, you know what you can expect, it makes it better. It makes it easier. I like analogies, and you talk about when you're doing sports, and when it's a team, right? And so when the chips are down and you're surrounded by your team, you feel like we can do this. And we have great successes that way. And I'll share a little bit more with you. 25 or 30 years ago, we didn't realize the importance of taking care of our first responders after the fact. And I'm certainly not going to suggest that we have it all figured out today, but we're better than we used to be, and not of any fault of persons 25 or 30. We evolve over time.
Right.
We learn. We learn from things that at the time we don't know are mistakes. And so following circumstances such as this, we have what we call a critical incident stress debrief. We get, it's not we don't force people to do these things, but we create these pathways, if you will, so that our first responders and those involved know that what they're feeling, once they break company with everyone and go home, and maybe if they have thoughts that go on, when they're trying to rest, that they're not alone, and there's ways that you can address that to mitigate it. So anyway, there's positive stuff happening there.
That's one of the best things about small town is the relationships. Like in a big city, you don't get that.
No,
you don't have that. Like the fire chief hasn't known the police chief for 30 years. You know what I mean? Like it's one of the best things about living in a small town.
Have you ever seen the stories where in some of the largest of metro cities in our nation, where you have the police department and the fire department show up and they literally end up in fisticuffs?
Yeah, arresting. I've seen the ones where like a fireman gets arrested by a cop on a call. It's like, come on.
Yeah, we have great working relationships and a lot of respect for one another.
Well, and that team effort is what makes a difference. That's what serves the people really well.
That's right.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah, for sure.
Yeah. Well, can you think? We'll talk about that later. But sometime, what was there, or was there something particular that you learned, maybe as a group? It's like, wow, that, is there anything that you learn a lot in a situation like that. But I mean, like we did the Shrine game this last weekend. This was our third weekend. We sat down yesterday briefly, and it's like, okay, there's some things that we could have done differently.
Yeah. So in this situation, without any hesitation whatsoever, I can tell you that I would not have done anything differently.
Good.
What occurred in terms of takeaways is validation of the training and the preparation and the relationship building that has been going on and continues. And so what that does is reinforce what we need to continue to do to be able to ensure that we're prepared to best serve the community in whatever way we may be called to. But as an example, I'll share with you that we have a scenario-based training exercise that we're going to be doing late this month in August in partnership with our first responders and Grand Ronde Hospital. And we're still putting the final touches on all of that. But the training never ends,
Right.
you know, and, you know, we have to train all the time. We talked about training new police officers, and we train a lot and consistently on regular things. But, you know, circumstances that we call high risk, low frequency, which is exactly what it sounds like. There's a lot of consequence there,
Right.
you know, for potential negative outcome, and they don't happen that often. So we really have to train hard on those high risk, low frequency things, such as the scenario based event we're going to do later this month is what we call an active threat mass casualty incident. Okay, thank goodness. I mean, here's the thing: we hope when we do some of these training events, the desire would be if we could pick and choose that these things never actually occur.
Right, of course.
But if we just put all of our marbles in the hope basket, then the unlikely event, something like these happen, a mass casualty incident or an active threat situation, as we talked about a few minutes ago, we would be ill prepared.
Yeah.
And we would see a lot more negative outcomes.
Yeah.
And that's just for people like myself and my professional partners. That's not an option. You know, I would be failing our community if we didn't train and do everything that we can to prepare for these kinds of things.
Yeah, right. It's like all kind of related to sports, right?
Yep.
The right fielder doesn't get as many balls as the shortstop, but that doesn't mean that the right fielder, you know what I mean, isn't going to take 500 fly balls in practice.
Right.
Like
but you want your right fielder to be able to catch the ball when it comes out
Absolutely.
there. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Well, and we, you know, I mean, people understand that part of our core values is not to dramatize things, not to make things worse, you know. And we knew about that incident early on just because we have people that feed us information and talk to us and so on and so forth. But I wasn't up there that day just because it was like I didn't want my van showing up and just making a really awful situation even worse.
Yeah. And you know, sorry to inject, but like early on, I told you, it's, you know, we don't, because here's the thing, nothing but the healthiest amount of respect that we can possibly extend to this individual and to their family.
Yeah.
You know, to create a greater spectacle of some things is not going to benefit, you know, people in, you know, a roadway or a pathway to improvement or to getting better. And so we work really, really hard at being transparent, and it's like no secrets, you know. I mean, the rest of the first response, we're community members,
right?
This is our job, right? So there's no secrets, but yet there are times that we just, it's a matter of respect, and we're trying not to just it's not an entertainment thing, you know, and I don't think that people necessarily mean ill by that, but just because we as human beings have a curiosity, I think sometimes we fail to recognize that those curiosities can be very hurtful,
right,
to some individual that's a real human being and their family. So we just try to navigate these waters, you know, sometimes as respectfully as we can, you know, to ensure that we're meeting everyone's needs.
Yeah. Well, and I can tell you, EO Alive is going to be talking a lot more about suicide prevention.
Yeah.
And
good.
part of that is there's this is a long conversation, but this started maybe 6 or 7 years ago. I had a company they hired me to go interview a family over in Baker City who had lost 2 sons to suicide 4 years apart. And I didn't know this family in this 6 hours that I filmed them the day I got got to know them very well.
Right.
Really wonderful ranching family. I mean, the kind of family that you would think that suicide would never visit their home.
Yeah.
And so anyhow, that that footage has just been left in the can all this time because it was a really compelling story, but out of the story there was no hope. And I couldn't just tell a story that didn't lead anywhere.
Right.
Okay. And through that process now we're partnering with someone who is very involved in suicide prevention. And so we're actively involved in this subject. And it's and I mean, I am wading into it with trepidation because it's really, I mean, anybody can create drama, anybody can create fear, but we have to create hope. There has to be and it's not just hope for the families that have lost people. It's an answer for those people out there that are on the edge and they're depressed and they're considering taking their life, or they've tried to, or whatever the case might be. So anyhow, this is we've kind of waded into it today, and it wasn't necessarily my intention, but this is a big deal for us. Yeah.
And some may not know, but we have locally, it's Union County Suicide Prevention and Response Coalition. So we have a group of professionals that get together monthly and discuss what we can do to improve in this area. And one of the things is I think a lot of people probably aren't aware of is the idea of postvention. Conceptually, we talk a lot about, when prevention, to prevent something from happening. But, like we talked earlier about how we evolve, and we've learned over time that, okay, that's great, because that's where our focus needs to be to prevent bad things from occurring. But, postvention is critical as well, because what's going on with people who have experienced something like this from a loved one, or maybe a work peer, or heaven forbid, a fellow student. So there's a lot of cathartic things that need to be happening there in order to do the best that we possibly can as a community in order to ensure the well-being of everyone else. And so I think for a lot of generations, it was a kind of a taboo topic,
right?
And it is. It's absolutely horrendous. I mean, who wants to talk about something like this, right?
Right.
But here's the reality is that it is. It is.
Right.
It happens, and we're human beings,
right?
And so let's do everything we can. Let's talk about it. You know, I mean, so. Let's do everything that we possibly can in order to try to get the help to people and let them know that there's people that are willing to, when all else fails and it seems like there is no hope, there's folks that do care.
Well, and part of that is destigmatizing depression. It's destigmatizing, it's creating a safe environment where people can say, I'm just not feeling great today, or I'm not, and that's hard. I mean, there's certainly bouts in my life where I'll have 3 or 4 days where I'm more angry, or I'm, whatever the case might be, I'm less patient than what I used to be, or I just really don't want to. And I mean, admit it, I'm in a depressed place. Yeah. And
what we know now is that, when we as individuals are feeling that, it seems like it's private. Nobody else can possibly understand. But here's the deal. What we know is that there's a lot of Americans that are feeling the very same way. And, and there's help out there. Yeah. But anyway.
Yeah.
Well, I want
to hit me with the heavy topics this morning.
I know.
I want to touch something for the viewers.
Sure.
One of the things is people respond. Like we'll put out a press release from Chief Bell or wherever, and they'll say we shouldn't be talking about this. And I just want the viewers to know that we don't put something out without like BC's talking about the suicide, the stuff that we're gonna do. There's going to be a lot of conversations about that.
Yeah.
It's not like we're just grabbing something and saying, here, you know, we want follows and views. That has nothing to do with it at all. Zero.
Yeah.
I appreciate that.
But I would say, but the but is that when we get a press release from whomever it is, we want people to know, you know, it's just like yesterday, and we haven't talked about it. Yesterday, the SWAT team did some exercises at the local school and so on and so forth. You know, somewhere early, I got a text from Cody, you know, saying, hey, just so you know, this is what's going on today, you know, and then I found the post on the sheriff's their Facebook page and shared it on ours. So when we get a press release, and I think those press releases came from Lieutenant Hayes, or they might, I don't know, but anyhow, when we get something, you know, our feeling is like you're releasing it to us because you want the public to know.
Yeah.
And so, I mean, and it literally is a copy and paste. I mean, I try and
there's no feelings.
Yeah, there's no, but I mean, we're just trying to do the service of getting the information out that you are releasing. And you know, I mean, and there's a purpose for that. Part of that is that if there's a whole bunch of cars that are going to one particular place in the city, you know, the first thing people are asking is what's going on. Right. And so they drive there and they create more congestion or more drama or whatever the case might be. Well, that press release serves the purpose of like, hey, this is what's going on. And this is all the information you really need to know. You're not going to gain more information by going to that incident.
Yeah, I appreciate the topic because, you know, when we put out releases, some of them are driven by law. You know, when we have to, as a public body, specifically law enforcement, when we make an arrest, take certain actions, there's certain things in law that states what we will provide to the media. But that really kind of takes care of itself, right? But there are occurrences or actions that happen in our community that we it's a painstaking process because we want to make sure that we provide the necessary information in the way that it serves the purpose that we intend it to, and that is that, you know, we're not trying to jeopardize anyone's right to privacy that we're dealing with. We're not trying to sensationalize things, but what we're trying to do is ensure, because here's the deal: we live in America. It's not like a lot of countries on the planet where it's like the police is this, you know, authoritarian. No, it's like we are working with the authority of the public, and that's the only place that we get legitimacy. So what we do is it's the public's business. But exactly what you said, Brent, is if people see police activity or first responder activity, what we don't want, because void of information, if we don't say here's the facts, right? What happens, especially in this world and era of social media, is there's a lot of untruths and things that will circulate because somebody sees something and maybe because they genuinely believe, but then that will be passed on. And next thing you know, there's a lot of rumors.
84 different stories.
And it oftentimes it can be alarming to a community. Is there a danger to the public at large? What's going on? And so we're trying to deal with the situation that's happening right here in front of us, but we're also thinking about our community at large. And, you know, as expediently as we can, we want to get the nature of what the facts of the circumstance are out there so that it can dispel, you know, the rumors and the things that just factually aren't true. And, you know, sometimes, you know, I will see, you know, some comments and people will be like, well, what about, recently we had a situation where this unfortunate, silly shooting that occurred out on Highway 30, you know, and, you know, I can remember, it's like, well, what about the driver? You know, it's like, yeah, well, we know, right? Yeah. We haven't just forgot.
We're talking about,
you know, here's the deal. And I understand.
Hey, that was a big question. That was on a lot of the posts.
I understand, but it's like, trust me, we haven't just forgot to apply criminal charges to another But what we're doing is we're providing the information we need to right now.
Right.
But a lot of times people, it's like we put it there on purpose.
Right.
Investigation is ongoing.
Right. And you
additional
did.
charges
Right.
may be,
Yeah.
but because that's like we're putting the information out we can right now. But what we're not going to do is we think we're going to arrest the driver. No, we're not going to say that because we're waiting for evidence to be processed. We're waiting for statements to be collated. We're doing our job. We're doing the job that you want us to do. We're being thorough. We're not missing anything. And
you don't want
the driver was arrested.
You don't want to jeopardize your investigation either.
Well, and the thing is, there's some things that if, for instance, we might be investigating something and we're still getting information, right? But we've had to share something because of whatever the circumstance is. But we're still working on this. Right. And, maybe some information that we're getting is from a source that if we say something that could dry up. So we're very purposeful about it. Yeah. And not in an intent to be secretive or anything like that. It's just, please be patient, work with us, understand that
people,
and sometimes it's the legal system, because we will put all the evidence together. We will, gather all the statements, and we will forward. The police are not the end of the justice system. I mean, sometimes in the movies, it looks like that, right? All within an hour.
Yeah.
But the reality is that, one of our professional partners, which critical to our system, is our district attorney's offices. Sure. And so we will send all of that to our district attorney, and the legal process oftentimes involves a grand jury review of the circumstances and the evidence to determine if they're going to indict the individual and charge them.
Because people who are not, they're not familiar with that process.
Right.
They might not understand that you're building a case.
That's right.
And a part of that building is you're accumulating evidence that supports that this person broke the law.
That's correct.
And that package of stuff that you build is what you give to the district attorney to do their job.
Yeah. And I think it's worthy of saying that what happens is there's criminal investigations that occur regularly where nobody really knows anything about that. The investigation is ongoing. Evidence is being gathered. Statements are being gathered. That's all sent for consideration for criminal charges to the DA's office for grand jury review. If there's a true bill that comes out of the grand jury, then an arrest is made, and then maybe immediate release follows that. The difference is in a situation like this shooting from vehicle to vehicle out on Highway 30. We had an event occur where we need to do something in order to restore the safety of the community, which basically is we arrest somebody. Right. We arrested somebody right then and right there.
Yeah.
Right.
And what we do by that is we arrest that individual with probable cause. And that triggers the whole thing. So now there's information, right? And aside from the fact that there was likely witnesses to what had occurred, and we're going to be out there's a little bit of information put out front, but the investigation is far from over,
right?
And so more of that comes later. But I chuckle sometimes because I see the comments like, well, how come this or what's like, we'll get there. Yeah.
Oh, the internet is very interesting.
Well, and to be fair, I mean. Not that people need to be defended, but it's if you've never served on grand jury, because grand jury service, if you ever get subpoenaed for jury duty, there's a lot of even just trial jury. I mean, there's a lot of learning about our system, right? But people we know what, as human beings, as people, we know what we know, right? And where do we get a lot of that? The internet, movies, TV, and I'm sorry, I hate to break it to everybody, but there's much of that is just not rooted in reality.
Right. Well, and thank you. That helps. It helps us understand a little bit. And I think that, with rumor can create panic and fear.
Yeah. And it's real.
And yeah, and that and certainly some of the press, I mean, there are times that you guys will release press and it's going to, yeah, there's some fear involved. I mean,
Right.
without a doubt, you're putting something out that is going to create some anxiety in the public. But at the same time, there's a huge difference between having anxiety over truth and anxiety over rumor, which might not be true at all.
Yeah, I heard long ago the concept that perception is reality.
Yeah.
I mean, and we know that just because you have a perception, it doesn't mean that it's real. That's your perception, though.
Right.
But I think the adage is that if the perception is there, then people will take on that's what they believe.
Right.
So we do the best we can, and oftentimes it's just my hope is that just give us a little bit of grace. Because we'll answer the questions, and the grace to understand that we and our professional partners are doing our absolute level best to whatever the task is at hand. And like we talked about earlier, we oftentimes get positive outcomes, but it takes us a minute to get there. So if we just bear with us.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, Gary, thanks for being with us today.
You're very welcome.
Yeah, always appreciate you coming on.
I know we got to rush off, but hey, Moonlight tournament this weekend too.
Yeah, you guys probably get a little busy.
Well, hey, it's well managed these days.
Yeah,
and
it didn't, but back in the old days, it was a little wild.
Yeah, just a little. Yeah, but a lot going on this week. Fair Moonlight tournament.
I get to actually go to Moonlight go watch. I'm not going to play, but it's always been on the same weekend as Shrine. Shrine got moved back a week, so
yeah,
I get to go hang out at Moonlight a little bit. Yeah, it'll be fun.
Good deal. You want to guess out here?
Yeah, let's do it. On this day, August 1st of August, 1774, English chemist Joseph Priestley discovered oxygen by isolating it in its gaseous state. So oxygen was discovered on this day.
Wow. What year again?
1774.
Okay.
1911, Harriet Quimby passes her pilot's test and becomes the first U.S. woman to earn an Aero Club of America aviator certificate. So her pilot's license.
Wow.
1914 on this day, Emperor Wilhelm II of Germany declares war on his nephew, Tsar Nicholas II of Russia in World War I. World War I, not World War II, 1914. That would be, yeah. 1941, the first Jeep is produced. 1941, yeah.
Huh.
1941. The military used Jeeps in the beginning.
Yeah.
1981, on this day, something very important happened in video and music. What was it, BC?
In 81.
81.
In 81. I don't know.
MTV debuted in the U.S. at 12:01 a.m. with the video killed the radio star.
Oh, really? That's
1981.
81.
2021 on this day, Italian Gianmarco Tamberi and Mutaz Essa Barshim of Qatar avoided a jump off for the first time in history. In the long jump in the Olympics, they shared the gold medal.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, that was 2 years ago. We got, what do we got? The Winter Olympics coming up in 2024, right? Yeah.
I can't keep track.
The number one movie in America on this day. Let me get to my little graphic for you guys. The number one movie in America on this day in 2013 was Two Guns. Denzel Washington and Mark Wahlberg. And it also had Bill Paxton, who passed away. Bill Paxton was pretty famous. I mean, he didn't have a lot of huge leading roles, but he was the leading role in that HBO show. I really liked it, but I can't remember what it was called. But it was about the polygamy. I can't. Dang it! I wish I could remember because it was a really good show. Anyways, what's going on here? Wow, I don't usually have this much trouble with this. I'm out of practice. Quote of the day: Albert Einstein. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. One more time. Life is like riding a bicycle. To keep your balance, you must keep moving. Get to a couple comments before we get out of here. Kenny Forsyth says, good morning, Gary. And Tony Dubose says, hello.
All righty.
Yeah.
Thank you, Eastern Oregon, for being with us. Thanks, Gary,
Yeah,
for
we
jumping
appreciate
in. Yeah, we really
taking time
appreciate
out
it.
of your day and your
Yeah.
week to come in and give us the lowdown.
Glad
Yep.
to be here.
All righty. We'll see
See
you
you
right
Thursday.
here Thursday morning.